Hey everyone, Chris here from Overland Bound, overlandbound.md on Instagram, El Solis on the Overland Bound forums. You'll find how you spell all that down in the video credits and whatnot. I'm here with a new video series that we're trying out called On Call with Chris. I'm actually on call tonight and here at work, and I thought I got some time between cases and seeing patients. Why don't I put together some videos to answer some questions for you guys, show some basic skills, address some health questions, anything basically related to trauma, first aid, health, medicine, and medical that you want to talk about. If you've got a question, let me know. We're going to be talking about, tonight's episode is about CPR. We'll get into that. I've got episodes on first aid versus trauma, first aid versus trauma versus base camp medicine. We're going to talk about basic wound care. I'll show you some some techniques on how to handle something bigger than a boo-boo, but not quite, emergency trauma, need to evac the patient. I've got things on some health. How do you handle medical issues out in the backcountry? How do you travel with certain things like diabetes or other issues that require really kind of constant monitoring? For those of you that don't have diabetes, how do you manage a patient who has diabetes and gets sick? So I've got a whole list of topics that I think are important, but I really want to hear from you guys. So if you've got questions, if you've got topics, you'll figure out how to either message me or put them in the forum thread that we're hopefully going to create for this series. So there you go. Episode 1, let's kick it off. CPR. I'm not here to show you how to do CPR. This is not going to replace actual CPR training. This is to talk about what is being taught in the Red Cross and the other CPR classes with compression only, chest compression only CPR versus mouth to mask plus compressions. So we all remember CPR was breathe and compress. So you're doing the breathing and you're doing the chest compressions. And why were you doing that? So the basic system is air goes in, air comes out, that's your lungs, that's your breathing, and the heart is just a pump. It pumps blood around. That blood goes through the lungs. That blood picks up the oxygen and gets rid of the carbon dioxide, and that's the cycle. That's how it goes around. So when somebody stops breathing and their heart stops, you can't have your heart stop and you continue breathing for very long. They go hand in hand. So when someone's heart stops and they stop breathing, you need to replace those two mechanisms for them. So we know this. This has been around for decades. But what was happening is that people were not surviving what should have been survivable heart attacks and other issues in the field. And they looked as to why. And what they found is that the number one reason that the number one barrier to bystander CPR was the mouth-to-mouth component. Because we don't walk around with CPR masks on us all the time. And I agree, I don't personally want to do mouth-to-mouth on a stranger, somebody I don't know, especially if that person has traumatic injury and they've got blood on their face. I don't want to do mouth-to-mouth. I don't expect anybody to do mouth-to-mouth. So what do? Well, you do chest compression only. So you get the pump going. And why does that work? Same reason you can hold your breath. Every time you take a breath in, not all the oxygen that you inhale, that you breathe in, actually is used. So you breathe in, some gets used, and then you breathe out the rest of it. When you hold your breath, the pump cycles the blood around. The blood takes the oxygen it needs at every pass, and it gets rid of the carbon dioxide that it doesn't need on every pass. And you can do that for a minute or 2 or 3, depending on your fitness level and how you are. So when you're out in the city, in the urban environment, doing chest compressions and not doing the rescue breaths and the breathing component works, because first responders, paramedics, firefighters, EMTs, they're going to get there, and they're going to have ways to provide oxygen, ways to provide an airway and do the breathing part that don't require mouth-to-mouth. So you've bought that time for them to get there, because your brain's going to start feeling the lack of oxygen in the 3 to 5 minute kind of range, depending on who you are and those kind of things. So you don't have that much time where you can just lay there with nothing going on. So if you are out and about and you see somebody that goes down and they don't have a pulse and they're not breathing, at least start doing chest compressions. Like I said, I'm not going to teach you how to do those, but just remember we want about 100 compressions every minute. So it's pretty quick, and you want to really push pretty deep to get that thing cycling. Now, what about in the backcountry? Help's not coming. You're the first responder. You're it. So in the backcountry, you're gonna have to do the mouth-to-mouth. You're gonna have to do the mouth-to-mask. You're gonna have to breathe for that patient until you get some help or get them to help. So you need to carry something to do that unless you really just wanna take your chances and do mouth-to-mouth directly. So this is where I do recommend a full-size CPR mask. They're $8 to $10 on Amazon. There's no name brand, so whichever one you want, go buy one. I recommend one mask for every 2 people. So if you've got a rig with 4 people, get 2 masks. And it's just something that's gonna make a big difference because you can't go very long without breathing and you can't go very long without your heart pumping. So when you're talking, you're an hour or 2 away from help, you're gonna need that kind of trauma care. First, breathing and circulation, right? The airway, the breathing, the circulation. We'll talk about the ABCs in the video of trauma care, but airway, breathing, and circulation, those are the first 3. So as long as you can breathe, that's your airway and breathing, and the pump is the circulation. So there you go. That's the simple answer. People ask me basically, should they do mouth-to-mouth? And I say yes, because you're not going to get very far without it when you're in the backcountry. So when it does come to CPR and you're doing your mouth-to-mouth, your mouth-to-mask, and your rescue breaths, it is 100 compressions to every 2 breaths. There are songs you can Google on the internet to give you a beat, a rhythm to do your CPR, your chest compressions too. It's 100 a minute, so it's almost 2 compressions every second, 1.5 every 2 seconds. So you really are pushing quickly and you're pushing hard. You're gonna get, you're gonna maybe break a rib or 2, and it's okay. Just keep going, and you're gonna have to breathe. So honestly, you can count to 100 and then do your 2 breaths, or you can do a bunch of compressions and then give 2 breaths. If you forget the numbers, that's okay. Pro tip, do not hold your breath while you are doing your chest compressions and think that when I need to take a breath, then I will breathe for the patient. It doesn't work. You will get lightheaded. You may even pass out. CPR is very fatiguing when done right. And you need to stay clear, and you need to keep everything about you so that you can take care of that person. So no holding your breath when you're doing the CPR. Whenever you think about giving a breath, give a breath. If there's multiple people, one person gives breaths, the other one does the chest compressions, and you swap after a while. Call for help, all those good things. But there you go. That's CPR. If you're in the city and you not have your mask and you don't have your kit with you, go ahead and do chest compression only. But if you're out in the backcountry, you're going to have to do mouth-to-mouth, mouth-to-mask. So I hope you got something out of that. You learned a little bit of something. As I said, we got a bunch of topics I'd like to bring and talk to you guys about. If you've got topics, please let me know. I'll start addressing your questions and topics before my own. But we're hoping to knock out some videos for you guys on a pretty regular basis and just go from there. Everybody stay safe, take care, see you on the next one.